Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Arrow Season 2, Episode 5, League of Assassins. The episode is rated TV-14, so this video there will be spoilers for the episode and potentially all of the ones leading up to it. And another episode I absolutely loved. Holy crap. I guess I will start with I wasn't thinking that they would have Sarah reveal that she was still alive to one of her family members this soon. But it definitely is very dramatic, fertile ground. Now Quinn has to keep the secret, and let's see. I think that does more or less. Yeah, so I'm gonna go over the flashbacks first. Very cool seeing, Sarah's point of view in the flashbacks, and yeah, I mean, as bad as Oliver had it, clearly, like I guess I don't know yet if Sarah's was worse, but it was definitely also really bad, and the yeah, Dr. Ivo. Looking forward to seeing more with him, finding out what exactly it is. I mean, obviously, when he says that he's gonna, what was it? Heal the human race or something like that. Yeah, that's almost definitely about the misshapen skull gravesite. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, this episode helped to really underline just how vast of a gulf there is between Sarah before and Sarah after the Queen's Gambit accident. We see as I've mentioned in other videos on the show, she was clearly smart. Like, she was the one who was like, it's that thunder that's getting closer, like we're in danger. And but yeah, we see her with the once she's picked up by the boat, and yeah, she's terrified of what's about to happen. And then we go to when Oliver is put on the boat into the same room. And now she's very hardened, and prisoners don't speak. So really nicely done on that. And yeah, I was a little worried that she was gonna be you know hard on him, now that because we didn't see exactly what we just saw her have a knife, and we saw him recognize her the last time we saw him in a flashback on the boat. And I think that does pretty well cover the flashbacks. Right, I appreciated when there's the thing about locking the door, and yeah, understandably, she thinks something, he's about to do something horrible, and he says, well, the those sailors, they're not the nicest bunch. They can be a pretty funky bunch, especially when they mark their territory. And yeah, I thought it worked well in the so yeah, the present day scenes. Let's see. I guess the next or first thing was yeah, I'm struggling to place exactly. I think I'm just gonna pick one and go with, so Oh, actually, yeah, come to think of it, I think it might have been that she wakes up from one of her PTSD nightmares, so she does indeed have those, as Oliver does. They're doing such a great job of having her be sort of a mirror to Oliver, and like, eh, it's unclear if she mainly reflects the past or if it is a darker reflection than he's ever been. I appreciate an argument could be made that once she confesses to murdering someone and their body was found by their kids, that might put her over the line into, something darker than him. But I mean, he has also killed. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure yet. And but yeah, so she wakes up and they talk in part about why doesn't she want her family to know what happened, that she's still alive. And they've done a really great job of, up until this scene, it was like, really we were wondering, and then she says, maybe they wouldn't like who I've become. And right there in the first scene of one of the first scenes of the episode, that theme is set up, and later, not only does Quinn know she's still alive, but he knows at least some of what, you know, it's one of those things, he has enough experience to know when he's witnessing what is not someone's first kill. And the guy is defenseless. It's not like, oh, he died during a fight. No, no, no. She had him at her mercy. She chose to kill him, to execute him. And there's some chance, like, she didn't kill the other one, but, Quinn is right there, and she wants someone to, she sends him back with a message for Ra's al Ghul. Sorry, Ra's al Ghul. And, yeah. So that's a, yeah, really, really well done on the complicated emotions of, yeah, the people who know that Sarah is back. And let's see. Yeah, so let's see. We have the yeah. So Oliver goes to talk to the rest of his family and the attorneys and such, and is not super happy that Laurel is there. And we again get these little hints that there's something hidden in because yeah, he's all like, well, okay, well, if the DNC are gonna leak a few emails, we're gonna leak thousands of emails, so nah. And do Republican politicians and media personalities ever make a decision that isn't in some way based on immaturity? At least publicly, I mean. Perhaps privately. But I'm not sure I can think of one where they're not just like gloating or distracting or complaining or something. Anyway. Yeah, I think that does pretty well get us to the I'm not always the biggest fan of Colbert, but I did think he did a good job on how, recently Trump, one day he says, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And then, like, not long after he says, I didn't say that, you did. Wow. Anyway, yeah. yeah, I'm really looking forward to finding out what is going on with those emails and such. And yeah, it's a really solid way to build on, we already, like, over the course of the first season, we found out a lot about her relationship to Malcolm Merlin, but, and it culminated in the quake, which she tried to save as many people as she could from that. But the idea that there's something else, they already know that, and there's something that is maybe even worse. Like, holy crap, yeah. And I think that does, yeah. So Oliver talks to Laurel and finds out, just the thing about, like, she was assigned the case. She can barely, there's not that many. Um, she's so new there, which was also mentioned when she helped Quinn. There sure are a lot of people charged with obstruction on this show. Anyway, yeah, she can't call in that many favors yet, and she really felt like the plea deal was the best option. And I think, yeah, I quite appreciate the way that here we do have, you know, a conflict between them that is not about Tommy or, you know, like neither of them are trying to like get the other for something that the other did, or to like keep the other from discovering a secret or something, so yeah, adding more texture to the overall relationship between them. And I guess that does get us to the so yeah, he comes back and talks to Sarah and then is attacked. And this is, again, they did such a great job, because like in the first season they didn't really make a huge deal of he was wearing some uniform or disguise or something, not a huge deal. But yeah, when someone shows up wearing the same thing, yeah, at first Oliver's like, I know it's a comic book, but don't you people ever die, and yeah, he of course thinks that it's someone trying to do what he thinks it's related to the quake, basically. um Pretty good game series. I have to admit, I mostly played the third one and mods of it. Anyway, the but yeah, in reality it's about Sarah. And yeah, really really cool fight between them. And let's see, yeah, it was great when so he's like, I have to see your face. And, well, I have no idea who you person are. Mask back on. Mask back on. And I think that is when yeah, so they so Sarah is in the basement, and yeah, points out this is what Shadow wore. And yeah, the rest of Team Arrow meet her. I like Sarah calling Felicity cute, and Felicity, as per usual, putting her foot in her mouth. Like, I'm so glad you're alive. I mean, I didn't know you before you supposedly died, but still. And let's see. I guess in some ways, pre Queen's Gambit crash, Sarah has a certain resemblance to Felicity. So yeah, it is sort of like she's seeing her old self. And I think, yeah, and you have the thing about, and I didn't get you a bag of dirt. And, Sarah says that she doesn't want Oliver to find Al, Al. And, yeah, starts to explain. And, yeah, um, I'm willing to acknowledge it's a trope, but I do like stories where an assassin changes their mind when they realize how painful it is, and perhaps it's because like children were threatened or involved or something. It's one of those things. It's a trope for a reason. And I think, let's see. I guess so really cool when he didn't have to. He didn't even have to turn around. He just catches the arrow in midair. Yeah, so cool. And he's just like, arrows, really? Come on, man. And yeah, points out, you could barely defeat Malcolm Merlin. How do you think you'll fare against the man who trained him? And the let's see. Yeah, I love that way of, he makes clear that he knows that about all, like, not everybody knew that um, that was the case about Arrow and Malcolm. But he knows, and it's just like, you know, it's just, yeah, like he didn't come there for Arrow. And I think that does bring us to and then Arrow says, well, who says that it's just me? And then LOL is like, well, I also did not come alone. Holy crap. Just yeah. And yeah, nicely done on, so Arrowfire is like, one more arrow, and is like, you know what, I don't think this is working, and goes for melee. And again, fantastic choreography. And I think that does cover the yeah, it's one of those things where ultimately they don't really defeat, they don't deter LOL, and or yeah, but they you know it's where Arrow here's this is the guy who trained Malcolm Merlin. And they say that well, if they can't get Sarah, they'll target her family. And I think that does right. I appreciate that Dig has actually heard of the League, and I guess that does cover. Yeah, so the the part about where they have to split up and go warn the Lance family, and Felicity does try, um, but yeah, it's one of those things where they needed to really figure out what to say to him, because obviously she tells the part of the truth that isn't giving away Sarah's secret, but he's a cop. It's not, he's gonna need, yeah, if not, if there isn't more like clear evidence, it does sound like something just ridiculous. And he also points out, that he, yeah, as a cop, like he's in danger every day. He puts on this uniform, he goes and gets shot at, he goes somewhere else, claims he was shot at so he can shoot an innocent person. It's difficult. And the, I think, right, when, at one point, she says, your cockroaches mean business, and not long after he says, I'll bite. And I just want there to be an outtake where she goes, not one of the cockroaches, I hope. There are better ways to deal with them. Asmongold is not someone who can give you, he's a little too comfortable around them. Anyway, I think, so yeah, Oliver goes to talk to Laurel, and I did appreciate, she points out we really shouldn't discuss, your mother's case. It's, conflict of interest. And when he first says, that like they should go eat, she thinks that it's a way for him to, yeah, he's trying to sneak in a argument to, yeah, to help his mom. And when that turns out not to be the case, she thinks that he's trying to get back with her. And that was really like, I felt so bad for both of them. Like, he's not trying to hurt her, but he does also realize, like, it's not a good idea. It's one of those things where if they did, there's a decent chance she would end up regretting it. She did say before that they couldn't be lovers, and now she's struggling with addiction and maybe not making the best decisions. Also a great detail that, there's the thing about, like, so she didn't drink at dinner. Does that make it clear that they were overreacting about her? And he's like, I am willing to acknowledge that I care about you. And then later we do see her, just take another pill. I bet you she will. And yeah, it's just, because that's the thing. Like, now that she's been rejected, she might take a pill to help, push away the intense emotion of that. Yeah. And she's able to put words to, basically she's describing having abandonment issues. And it really is no wonder. And that's again where, they've done a really great job over the first season, building that up. And then, of course, it's going to go into full swing, with the, well, let's see, there's a couple of things. One major thing is losing Tommy. And then another is right after the doll maker has been stopped, she expresses that she feels she is why Tommy is dead. So yeah, all of these things combined. And meanwhile, he's standing there and like, oh, if only he could tell her that Sarah is still alive. But yeah, really, really well done. And yeah, and there's the thing about, I thought I locked that, which is also a good detail because, like, in season 1, she tended a little more towards, like, if, because that's a pretty clear sign that there's something, there's some danger there. And here she says, I thought I locked that, rather than who broke in. So clearly it is, affecting her. She's less, what's the word? Her, uh, yeah, she's less like ready for, you know, unusual things. And yeah, and he finds the knife and removes it and says that there's no one there. And I think that does bring the yeah. So they realize, this must mean that the um, um, the target is Quinn. That was also, I quite like when Felicity's like, I knew you'd be coming home now because I knew your shift just ended, which I knew because I pinged your phone. Felicity, sometimes less is more. You're just creeping him out now. Like, this is not, you're not building a very strong case for him to listen to you. This is like we could practically hear his inner monologue be like, just keep moving, just keep moving, just keep moving. Like they have a more positive relationship now than they did, some of season one, but it's still, yeah, um, it's an understandable. It doesn't go quite as well as hoped. Anyway, I think that does bring us to the let's see, what was the next thing? Ah, let's see. Yeah, so Sarah is the one that goes to see Quinn, and really well done that, at first she's like in shadow. And right, I love the way that they film it edited like a horror movie where he's like reacting to every single little noise, because on some level, like, he accepts that there is something, but he's not going to leave town. And then, yeah, we see her like silhouette at first, and very nicely done because like we can't see from her silhouette whether or not she's got like the mask and wig on. So yeah, I was surprised when she stepped out into the light and revealed, yeah, and just genuinely so moving when, they hug. And yeah, we have the thing about, that now she speaks Mandarin, and the what's the word, the yeah, she hears a noise and she jumps out of her seat and readies the knife. And we see, oh yeah, it was just like, what was it? Napkin dispenser or something like that. It was like knocked over or something, and yeah, those things, I can imagine can make that kind of noise. But like she's maintaining a constant state of readiness, and it sounded like there's an attack. And yeah, really nicely done on Quinn, recognizing the signs. He asks, are you in trouble? This is the kind of thing that, yeah. And then we have the yeah, the let's see, we have the part, yeah, so he's like, well, yeah, he deduces that she is the masked woman, who apparently likes a canary. Huh, that might make a good alter ego. And and that was also very nicely done on, after she comes to on the, what's it called, the part of the uh, broken boat, she sees a canary. But yeah, the he deduces, because like he does, Mr. Policeman, I gave you all the clues. And yeah, the thing about, you've been home for weeks. Were you ever going to tell me? And she admits that no, not if she didn't have to protect him. And yeah, the thing about, like, what's already the hardest thing I've ever had to do is keep this secret. And I guess that brings us to the, yeah, right. I like the thing about, you could really see a lot if you're perched up here. And yeah, LOL and the other two show up, and the yeah, another really great fight. And Quinn brought a gun to a knife fight, which think it's I guess that is better than the other way around. And the thing about, guns are a coward's weapon. Take that away. What are you? The guy with the spare. Very nicely done on that. And I think that does pretty well cover the yeah. So, we see Quinn say it's keeping the secret's the hardest thing, and then we see him talk to Laurel, and yeah, like, we're thinking, is he gonna be able to keep the secret? And I do think it's, yeah, and she thinks it's about the missed phone call. And yeah, he says, well, when you're a parent, sometimes you worry, or all the time. And you have the let's see, yeah, ultimately he does not tell her about Sarah. And the what was the other thing? We have there's definitely at least one more thing that I wanted to say about the episode. Right, I really loved so yeah, you have the secret. um Oliver realizes that must, Sarah was keeping a secret from Quinn because she was worried about how he would feel, and that must be what's going on with uh, Moira as well. And so they reassure her, we'll fight this thing. Nothing that comes out is gonna make us not love you. So yeah, and again, very, very sweet. The show's continuing to do a great job of balancing the sweet with the more, like, sad and dark. And I think that does pretty much. Let's see. We what do we have left? So the right, the fact that she doesn't even wince at the pain. She's used to. Yeah, that was also very intense and cool. And I appreciate the detail that, afterwards, like the injury, to sew it up, required her removing her top, but it's Felicity who helps her put her clothes back on, such like it's not one of the guys. And I think that, yeah, and the thing about like, well, why is she keeping a secret? Well, you kept secrets. And I like, dig, you're right. I usually am. What in particular am I right about this time? And yeah, I think I pretty much, let's see. Um, yeah. Uh, let's see. There's the thing about, they say the first thing you forget about someone is their voice. You can remember their face and, but not their voice. I never forgot your voice. Very, very sweet. And yeah, and that's also, they do such a great job of, now that she's been unmasked, for a while she was shrouded in mystery and a domino mask. Maybe Oliver will eventually take some inspiration from the choice to make it a mask rather than makeup. I don't know. The now that we've seen that it's Sarah, we are seeing, yeah, she is like, she's changed in some ways, but there is some of the Sarah left that was the yeah. So, because that obviously makes it more compelling. There's more conflict there. The more we see aspects where she's similar to the way she used to be, like the more it's clear, okay, there must be something really big for her to be hiding from her family when she's not, because like sometimes if someone doesn't, um, you know, not this exact same circumstance, but if someone like disappears from someone else's life for a while and then doesn't come back, it's because they're so different they no longer feel a connection to that person. And clearly that's not what's going on with Sarah. And I think that does pretty well cover uh, I liked Donner pointing out, with Malcolm gone, people are going to want someone to pay for the 503. And that is also one of those things, like, that is one of the things the show is in part about, the thing of, like, we want there to be someone who is guilty that we can stop to make things better. So yeah, very, very nicely done on that. Yeah, I think that covers everything. Okay, let me just real quick mentally fast forward through the entire episode to see if there was anything else that hmm right now. I also think this, it feels like, like, yeah, last time Raish sent a person to bring her in, and like, yeah, he eventually, actually he does draw a knife, but you know he wasn't ready for her to kill him. Yeah, as soon as that guy does not report back, they're gonna know she must have killed him. I mean, who else could have? Like, it's not easy to kill one of the assassins of the League of Assassins, who are in league with assassins from the League of Assassins. Yeah, the next thing, like, this is classic organized crime and various kind of, like, you may be through with the past, but the past isn't through with you, kind of, we tell you when you're done, not you kind of situations, yeah, they'll send more and better, and eventually, you know, yeah, you might not be able to fight all of them, but the fact that she is able to stop all three of them, with a little help, sure, but and then sends him back alive, says, tell Raish Al Ghul. Yeah, I don't know exactly what is going to, it's one of those things where I can believe that it might work because, like, how many people, like, so now she's responsible for the deaths of three of the assassins, like she didn't kill, one of them she didn't kill personally, but they've sent four, one came back, and that was only to say stop sending them. Yeah, it is a yeah, I could imagine it might work, but I also wouldn't rule out that they're gonna send, even more. And yeah, let's see. Right, I liked Felicity saying, "What's the League of Assassins?" And please don't tell me it's a League of Assassins. And I think that does. Oh, did I forget if I mentioned, but yeah, the fact that Laurel, yeah, she didn't have a glass that night, in part, yeah, there's a couple of things. One of the things is maybe she didn't feel she needed it because she's with someone who makes her feel a little better. That doesn't mean that it's not still an addiction. You cannot. A lot of people, certainly, I can't speak for all, but a lot of people can't live their lives in a way where there constantly has to be another person around them in order to keep them from using. That's not healthy, at least not long term. You know, that's like you need to deal with the addiction, overcome it, and it's not easy, but it is doable. But yeah, if you just rely on, oh, there's other persons around, that's, yeah. And so that's one of the things. And another is there are a number of addicts who will hide the addiction from people close to them because they realize that if they don't, then they won't be able to indulge in the addiction. And I think I did already mention, yeah, after he rejects her and she talks about like how she feels like everybody runs away from Laurel. Yeah, that's the combination of those two things might have meant she felt more of a need for a fix than she did, you know, during the dinner, and hence she didn't drink there. And I think, and it's also, she says she's just been too busy to talk to him, Quinn, but that's also, Quinn did note, she's addicted to work, among other things. Yeah, I think that does cover the entire thing. I quite like when there's the line, you never did learn to mind your surroundings. I learned that from a movie.